My own daughter packed my entire life into two garbage bags and left them by the front door. 81 years old, a failing heart, and suddenly homeless, because her husband said the house wasn't big enough for three people. Nobody thought to check what was inside the small locked folder at the bottom of one of those bags. It turned out to be the only proof in the world that my daughter's entire company, the one paying for that house, existed because of the mother she'd just thrown away. I spent 40 years running a small bakery outside Pittsburgh, waking up at 4 every morning so my daughter Claire could have things I never had. Dance lessons, a car for her 16th birthday, a college fund built one loaf of bread at a time. When Claire came to me at 26, crying, saying a boutique clothing line she'd dreamed of starting had fallen through because no bank would approve her loan without collateral, I didn't hesitate. I sold the bakery, the only thing I'd ever built for myself, and quietly co-signed the loan under my own name on one condition. She was never to know where the money truly came from. I let her believe a bank had simply taken a chance on her. I wanted her to believe she'd done it herself. I think somewhere, I even wanted to believe that too. The boutique became three boutiques, then an online brand with 500,000 followers. Claire built a life I'd only ever hoped for her. A beautiful house, a husband named Dale who wore expensive watches and rarely looked me in the eye. For years, I lived quietly in the guest room, helping with the grandchildren, asking for nothing. Then my heart started failing. Slowly at first, stairs I couldn't climb anymore, then a hospital stay that frightened everyone but me. I heard Dale, within earshot, tell Claire this wasn't sustainable. I heard my daughter stop arguing back. One evening, I heard him say it plainly. It's her or the peace in this house. Pick one. 3 days later, my things were in two garbage bags by the door. I was moved into Willow Creek, a modest, underfunded senior facility on the edge of town, the kind with peeling paint and a waiting list for anything better. My heart still worked well enough for me to understand exactly where I was and exactly why. What I kept with me, the one thing I insisted on carrying myself, was a small, locked folder. 20-year-old bank documents, loan agreements, records with my own signature on them as the sole guarantor of Claire's very first business loan. I'd carried that folder for 2 decades like a quiet secret, never once planning to use it. I mentioned it once, almost offhand, to a young aide named Sasha Kim. Everything Claire has, I signed for it, you know. Every bit of it. She didn't understand yet what that meant. I'm not sure I fully did either, until later. Sasha, helping me apply for state assistance, needed to verify my financial history and found the folder still zipped in the lining of an old coat. Inside were the original 2003 loan documents for Marlowe Boutique, LLC. My name, not Claire's, listed as the primary guarantor, with my bakery sale receipt attached as the collateral that had made the loan possible in the first place. She told me later she sat with those papers for a long time before she said anything to anyone. Claire's company, worth, according to a magazine sitting in our waiting room, over $4 million, legally existed because of a decision I'd made alone in a bank office 20 years earlier. And I was sitting in a state-funded facility, and no one outside that building even knew my name was on anything. Sasha called Claire directly. She told me afterward that Claire's first response wasn't shock or guilt. It was panic. "Please don't say anything to anyone," Claire said. "Dale doesn't even know the original loan wasn't in my name. If people find out my mother funded this and I put her in a state facility, it's going to look—" She stopped herself before finishing. Sasha finished the sentence silently in her own head and told me later exactly what she'd thought. It's going to look exactly like what it is. Claire offered to handle it privately, asked Sasha to just return the folder and let it go. Sasha, who told me she'd spent 3 years watching families quietly disappear from their parents' lives at Willow Creek, made a choice that morning she hadn't planned on making. She kept a copy. A woman running a small local news page, she'd covered Willow Creek's funding troubles before, was the person Sasha finally reached out to, terrified of losing her job over it. She didn't send accusations, just the documents, and one simple question. How does a company worth millions leave its founder's guarantor in a facility that can't afford new mattresses? The story ran beside a photo of my room, a single bed, a small window, that same folder sitting on the nightstand. I didn't see it right away. Sasha showed it to me 2 days later, once it had already been shared thousands of times, mostly by strangers asking one quiet question in the comments. Where is her daughter right now? Claire's brand, built on an image of family warmth and bootstrap success, lost 2 retail partnerships within the week. Dale left within the month, I heard. The peace in the house he'd once demanded turned out to depend entirely on nobody looking too closely at how it had actually been paid for. Claire drove out to Willow Creek alone not long after. She sat across from me and apologized. I remember every word of it, which I think surprised her. I think some part of her had gotten used to a version of me that couldn't quite hold on to things anymore. I could hold on to that one. Public donations, after the story spread, paid for my move to a private residence with a small garden I sit in most mornings. Claire visits 3 times a week now. Sometimes I let her sit a while before either of us says anything. Sasha lost her job at Willow Creek within a month and was hired 2 weeks later at the residence where I live now, specifically, she told me, so she could keep checking in on me. I never sold that bakery to be repaid someday. I sold it because I loved her, plainly, the way you love someone before you know what it will cost you. I just wanted, eventually, for someone to know it was true. It turned out that was worth more than anything money could have given back to me.